Good morning, everybody. Rise and shine. It's a new day, and I'm looking forward to starting a new series with you right now. We're into the book of Judges. We left the book of Joshua having to answer the choice of who we were going to serve, and hopefully we have chosen to serve, like Joshua and Caleb, the Lord, because He's the God. Now, I want to move in the book of Judges. Judges in an interesting period of time because there was no left leader for the nation of Israel. There was no Joshua to lead them. And so God said, I would love to be your king and I'd like to lead you. But in the meanwhile, what I'm going to do is I'm going to appoint judges to you to help you to discern the difference between right and wrong, for you to bring your conflicts to somebody who I will give incredible wisdom to help to judge you, the people of Israel. And so God appointed judges over this particular time, thus the name of the book. But the book begins on an incredibly interesting note. There's a common statement that runs through chapter 1 and chapter 2, and it says this: they did not drive out, and it names the people they did not drive out, which means this, that Joshua and his regime and his people failed in certain areas. There were a number of areas in the promised land that God had designated to them that they did not drive out the giants from. In chapter 2, the angel of the Lord comes to them and says, guys, you have failed to drive out all of the giants. Therefore, these areas or these giants are going to be a thorn in your side. They didn't finish the job. It's half completed. They almost did it, but they didn't. You know, that word almost is a tragic word. Man, I almost did it. I almost made the team. I almost won the race. I almost did a good job. And yet we see almost not being good enough. And we see here the children of Israel almost clinching the deal, but they didn't. And because they didn't, the things that they didn't do that God wanted them to do became a real thorn, and a thorn in their flesh and a pain in where. But it was one of those things that they didn't finish the job. And so we see the nation of Israel coming up against this challenge now, saying, what do we do with this thorn in the flesh? Well, let's ask first of all why it was there. They didn't do the job completely. Now, there's a very strong devotional aspect for us in this. You know, the promised land is a picture of the Christian life. It's a picture of the Christian experience where we come across the river of salvation, not the river of death, it's a river of salvation, the Jordan River, into the promised land of all that God would want to give us and all that God would want for us to do. But there are giants in our lives as there were in the promised land, and we've got to drive them out. People, it's our responsibility to do that as a country, as a church, and above all, as an individual. You are responsible for getting rid of the giants in your life. It's a beautiful picture, and it's a great challenge because those are the tests that we're talking about right now. So it's a continual battle. It's not one that you win one battle off. You don't just win the war by fighting one battle. The war is won at the end of the day when we leave this life, having fought continual battles against the flesh, the mind. The greatest battles that we're fighting now are not external battles. They're the battles that we fight in our mind and in our thinking. These are the battles of pride, of lust, of greed, of envy, of guilt, of shame, of unforgiveness, of bitterness, of resentment. These are the greatest battles that you will have to fight. And I'm going to say, people, it's a continual fight. You never really win the war against these things until you go to heaven one day. They're always there. And so we need to learn the power of God within us to deal with the enemy in our heads. Now, we think that God just died so we can go to heaven. No, He didn't. He died so that we could have power through the Holy Spirit who dwells in us to have victory in these areas of our lives, to have victory in the areas of guilt. Man, there's not one of us that if people didn't know what we did, we'd be full of shame, we'd be full of guilt, we'd be full of all. But Jesus died to take that away from you. And that beautiful verse that says this, that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And you're saying, yeah, right. You know, you don't know how hopeless I feel right now. I've been battling with unforgiveness and bitterness and resentment for so long. Well, people, whatever your giant is, let me assure you of this one fact. It's a simple truth. Within you dwells the Holy Spirit. Make a more powerful person than that. And He will give us the power, if we will use it, to defeat every giant that lives within our thinking, within our lives, because we can. We can, people. We can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. It's not your willpower. It's not your ability to man up and go on a course and learn it. It's the power of Christ in you that gives you the strength to defeat all the giants that you may need to defeat. Let's live in victory in these coming days. Day by day, we fight these battles. Don't fight tomorrow's battle, fight today's. And let's win against these enemies in our minds. And you know what they are. Have a fantastic day, people. See you tomorrow. Bye.